Okay, we're up to Yud Tes Amid Days. Yud Tes Amid Days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months from the bottom. So we've been discussing a Chaserim Umalayim. We discussed that it's possible to have a Chodesh that's 29 days and the Rosh Chodesh is on the 30th day. It's possible to have a Chodesh that's 30 days and the Rosh Chodesh is on the 31st day. You can't have anything more. It's got to be the 31st day. Amen. We'll see why Bez Hashem on the Yomid base. Says the Gemara. They sent to Marukva. Adar has Samich l'Nissen. Now, usually Adar is right next to Nissen, but in an Ibiyar you have two Adarim, and there's one that's Samich to the second Adar, and it's not Samich to Nissen. So in an Ibiyar where it's the second Adar, L'Olam Chaser, it's always going to be Chaser. It's always going to be a 29-day month, and Rosh Chodesh will be on the 30th day. Okay, that's the given. We're starting off. Rosh Chodesh Samich l'Adar will always be Chaser, will always be 29 days. Master Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman is the following question. Al Shnei, the Mishnah is going to say on Bez Hashem in tomorrow's daf. Al Shnei Chadoshim Mechalim es Shabbos. Now, Edom would come to say they saw the Levana, right? When on two Shabbos, they would be able to come from outside the Tchum on 2 months, 2 Shabbos with 2 particular months. They will be able to come from outside the Tchum to go ahead and testify. What are those 2 months? Al HaNisan, the Al Tishrei, on Nisan and Tishrei. Now, 1 second, you just told me that on Nisan, I could figure out if the Elul Somich to Nisan is always Chaser, just count. You wouldn't need to be Machal Shabbos. Sometimes Adar is Malay, sometimes Chaser. You have to Machal with Nisan. We want to know exactly when Pesach is. Was it one day or the next day? Because I don't know. If you're going to tell me that Nisan is that Adar Samech Nisan is always Chaser, so you know exactly when Rosh Chodesh was. Count from day 30 Rosh Chodesh, and you'll figure out exactly when Pesach is. So why is it necessary to go ahead and be Mechalel Shabbos for a day that you know? Am I Mechalina? And for the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Mishum the mitzvah l'kadosh al re'iyah. Good, I can be Mekadosh based upon calculations, as we do Bizman Hazeh. But Bizman, they wore Mekadosh al Yidei Uriyah. This is even after Churban Bayis. As long as they use that method, there's a mitzvah of HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodesh to be Mekadosh al Yidei Uriyah. So Einachanami, we know exactly when Rosh Chodesh is. And nonetheless, because it's a mitzvah Mekadosh al Yidei Uriyah, therefore what? You go ahead and Mechal on Nisan. It could
that's the Raisa to Re'iyah. That's the Rabbanan.
It's the first mitzvah in the Torah.
Right, so it's Re'iyah. It's the
first mitzvah in the Torah. HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Rashi says, he showed them the Levana. It's a mitzvah. It's the first. It's the first mitzvah given to Klal Yisrael.
Yeah. Okay.
Ikadi Army. Others say the same lashon, but not as a question, really as a raya. Rav Nachman, Afananami Tanina. We also learned this. Al Shnei Chadoshim Mechalon Es HaShabbos. On 2 Chadoshim, we will the Edim who saw the Levana will be able to Mechalon Es HaShabbos. Al Nisan ve'Al Tishrei. Bishleim Olam Chaser. Bishleim, you're going to tell me that Nisan is always Adar Samech Nisan is always Chaser. Mishum Hachim Mechalinon. Therefore, we Mechalel. Why will we Mechalel the mitzvah l'kadesh al re'iyah? So Heshi, of course, it's the rice. You can be Mechalel Shabbos and the Rabbanan. Of course not. Of course, you can. There's a mitzvah all your day, and that mitzvah stays in place. Eliyam, it's Zimnin Molei Zimnin Chaser. Amayit Mechalelinon. If sometimes it's Chaser, sometimes it's Molei. Let's play around with it to ensure that Rosh Chodesh will be on the 31st, and it's unnecessary to go ahead and be Mechalel. So Nabre Idna, make it Molei. And you'll make it Kodesh L'machar. Ele must be what? L'olam it's chaser, and therefore we machal. Says the Gemara, Ida iklo yom shleishim b'Shabbos hachanami. If it's 30th day would fall on Shabbos, you'd be right. Hachanami hachamei skinon the iklo yom shleishim be'echad b'Shabbos. If fell the yom shleishim be'echad b'Shabbos, the mitzvah l'kadosh al re'iyah. Maser Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana asked the following question: Kishamikdash kayim, when the Beis Hamikdash was around, Mechalin af al kulon. if they takonas a carbon, in order to bring the carbon musaf, every single month we would go ahead and be makadosh al yedei the riyah, of course, but even every aid will be able to be machalo Shabbos to ensure that we get it correct. Midakulu lav mishum the mitzvah lekadosh al riyah. Now, when obviously you're telling me the mitzvah is takonas hakorban, you're not telling me mitzvah lekadosh al yedei riyah. Again, bisman abayis, you're telling me there's no mitzvah lekadosh al yedei riyah. Only doing it for the korban, right? Nisan Tishrei nami lav mishum the mitzvah lekadosh al riyah, and now Nisan and Tishrei also is not for that reason. Because you don't know. Why, if why are we mechal? Since you know Rosh Chodesh has to be that day. It says, this is an upshlag. This is an upshlag. There's no raya from here that the Nisan, that Adar Samech Nisan is on day 30. Okay, so it's fascinating. Now, Pashtus, you'd say we slugged it up. And Pashtus, you say that, so therefore, Nisan Samech Adar Samech Nisan could possibly be Malay, right? If you look at places on Yud Tes Amid Beis, the bottom places, guys. Adar Samech Nisan Loilam Chaser, Tema, and Cain, Am I Yotzin al Nisan B'fnei Pesach? If that's the case, why do you go on Nisan B'fnei Pesach if you can figure it out? You count 30 days till Pesach from the last day of Adar. At the end we say it's a tiyufta. At the end we slug it up. Good. Says Taisus. Even though the Gemara slugged up the rayas, anu noyigim kain. We are noyig that what? That the other soymech lanisin is always chaser. That's what Taisus. And that's evchein halacha, guys. And that's the halacha. That other soymech lanisin is always that way. Good. Next case. Ula. Yodei Chavrevim Bavloi, Kiyasa Ula, when Ula came, Omar, he said, Abrua le'elul, they made Ma'abel Elul, right? In Eretz Yisrael, they made Elul a nibber. Now, we said that Afapi Deloi Matzinu Mimei Ezra Ebra Ma'ulul, we said many times in Masechta, even though we don't find Elul to be a 30-day, 31-day, right? That's what Ezra said. Me makes Ezra. Nonetheless, Ibrula Elul. They made Elul Malay. Ula says Ula. Yodei Chavin bebavloi my tivusa avdina ba'adayu. I wonder if the people in Bavel, they know the goodness they did for them. My tivusa. What's the tivusa? Ula Amar mishum irakaya, because the vegetables. Rav Acha bar Chanina Amar mishum Messiah, because of dead people. Okay, outside guys, outside. If you're going to have Yontif after Shabbos or Yontif before Shabbos, you're going to have a span of 2 days. And if a person dies on the first day, you won't be able to bury him until 2 days later. You pick your vegetables, right, before Shabbos and before Yontif. Again, they didn't have refrigeration. By the time you get around to eating them, they'll be wilted. They won't be good anymore. So therefore, if they finagle, if they go ahead and calculate Elul, they're able to go ahead and figure out to make it a Mali or a Chaser in order to ensure that Yontif, either Sukkot, Pesach, Yom Kippur, should not be either on a Sunday or Yom Kippur should not be on a Friday. It never is. So that's the tivusa that the Bnei Eretz Yisrael do for the people in Bavel and the Goyla. By going ahead and manipulating Elul, they're able to ascertain and ensure that you'll never have one after the other. You'll never have Yom Kippur coming after Shabbos or Yom Kippur right before Shabbos, because that would be a problem with the vegetables and that would be a problem with the dead people. Now, my nafkamina would be the vegetables, because according to Yom Kippur, you don't eat anyway. So you can't eat anyway. Messiah, I understand you won't be able to bury, but vegetables is my nafkamina. Let's say it falls out Yom Kippur right after Shabbos. So it might say Yom Kippur, you'll go pick fresh vegetables and you'll eat. Says the Gemara. My binayu, what's the difference? It could be binayu, Yom Kippur shechal yos achar Shabbos. So Yom Kippur is on Sunday. Mandam and Mishum Messiah Mabrinan. They're going to go ahead and make Elul to ensure that Yom Kippur does not fall out on a Sunday. Mandam and Mishum Yirakia, the one who says it's because of vegetables. Le'ema kamboy lahu. When do you need the vegetables? L'orta in the evening of Yom Kippur. You can't eat on Yom Kippur. L'orta in the evening. Taruch ha'maisi. So therefore, there would be no reason to go ahead and finagle the calendar in order that Yom Kippur should not fall out after Shabbos. Because again, as vegetables, that's not a problem. Fred the Gemara, Lamadi Yom Yirekaya La'abre Mishum Messiah. Oh, why does he think to cut the mace? In other words, he only worries about the vegetables. He's not worried about dead people and the covered mace. The covered mace is a much more important reason than wilted vegetables. Ela Ikabinayo Yom Tif Asomich L'Shabbos. Ah, the Yom Tif that's next to Shabbos. Beim Lefneha Beim Machrei Yom Tif, but it's before or afterwards. Madi Yom Mishum Yirekaya Ma'abrinon. You can go ahead and be Ma'aba because again you want your vegetables fresh. Madi Yom Mishum Messiah. We said Masech the Beitza, you're able to go ahead and bury on the first day of Yom Tov. Of course, the first day of Sukkot, you'll be able to go ahead and bury using what? Using a guy. But you won't be able to pick vegetables. The one that says as death, he's worried about that. Why isn't he worried about what? About his vegetables? And hot water, put the vegetables in, you'll eat vegetables, you'll be okay. You won't be so bad. What's the difference? What that in Bnei Bavel? Nami, right? In why in Eretz Yisrael are they not worried? Says the weather's different, therefore you have to worry about wilted vegetables. But in Eretz Yisrael, they don't worry about vegetables. Okay, so now the halacha is that this. It's good to know that this acronym. Loi Adu Rosh. Loi Adu Rosh. Rosh Hashanah cannot be on Aleph, Dalid, or Vav. It can't be on a Sunday, it can't be on a Wednesday, and it can't be on a Friday. It can't be on a Sunday. Listen to this. This is not the typical reason. It can't be on a Sunday because then a Shana Rabbah would fall out on Shabbos. If Shana Rabbah falls on a Shabbos, you're being mevatel the mitzvah of Arava. So the reason it can't be on a Sunday is because a Shana Rabbah will be on a Shabbos and you'll be mevatel mitzvah Arava. Conversely, if it's on a Wednesday, right, then if Rosh Chodesh is on a Wednesday, Yom Kippur is going to be on a Friday. So you're going to have Yom Kippur going into Shabbos. We don't want that. If Rosh Hashanah is going to be on a Friday, Yom Kippur is going to be on a Sunday following Shabbos. So therefore, Loi Adu Rosh. Loi Aleph Daled Vav. Rosh is an acronym for knowing that days of Rosh Hashanah can't fall out. And that's based upon this Gemara, guys. Okay. Fred the Gemara, Ini. So Rashi says, Ini, do we finagle the calendar? Guys, what are we doing over here? Really, Rosh Chodesh should be on day 30. Why are we saying it? No, let's make it a mole, because it suits our purposes, right? Really, it should be a chasa. Really, it should be on day 30. But to suit our purposes, in order to ensure that that Yom Tif should be next to Shabbos or Yom Kippur should not be next to Shabbos, I'm going to go ahead and fix the calendar. Can you do that? I've a Tani Rabba Bar Bashmuel. Yochel Kishem Shema Arvines Hashana Litzoyrich came Arvines Achodesh Litzoyrich. I would think, just like you can go ahead and make a leap year for our needs, I might think you can go ahead and make a leap month, only for our days. Tamaloida, Tamaloid says, Hachodesh is Elochem, Reish Chodashim. Kizer Roy V'Kiddush. Once you see it, you can't delay it. That's what we're saying. Once you know it's day 30, you can't delay it till 31. We can fool around with the Ibiyar. Of course, we see it like we do all the time, right? We know. Guys, we know if Hanukkah is in Thanksgiving, it's got to be an Ibiyar, right? You know that, right? We know that by now. You don't get no rocket scientist knows we can't have Pesach at the beginning of March. It's not going to happen, right? You have to delay it. We know that. But but we're saying by the month, to finagle the month, that you can't do. Because it says, HaChodesh Hazel Lachem, when it's like this, Mekadesh. So if you see the Levana, if you see it on day 30, day 29, Rosh Chodesh is going to be 30. Amar Rava, Loi Kasha, it's not Shver. Kan La'abroi, right? Kan La'abroi, if you don't see the moon, right? If Kan La'abroi, to make the past month full, Kan L'Kachoi, the incoming month. Let's say you didn't see the moon. If you didn't see the moon, automatically it's going to be 31. But on day 30, in other words, we won't, to finagle, to go from 30 to 31, that we will do. To go ahead and make day 30 Rosh Chodesh without seeing the moon, that we won't do. Again, one more time. Your kasha, how could you finagle? It says you can finagle the year, you can't finagle the Chodesh. when it says the vanegel the chodesh is to mean to make a malay into a chaser, meaning you didn't see it at all in the 29, but for our purposes, we'll make Rosh Chodesh on 30. That you can't do. But if you see it on 30, you could make Rosh Chodesh on 31. So to delay you could, but to be proactive and bring it earlier, that you cannot do. That's what it means over here. V'achi kamar, Yochel, I might think, Kashem Shema Arvin Es Hashanah, just like you make an Ibiyar. Ve'es HaChodesh L'tzayrech, Kach Makdish Es HaChodesh L'tzayrech, so you can make the Chodesh, even though you didn't see the Levana. Tamaloymar HaChodesh Azel Lachem, Kizera Eve Kiddush, only when you see it. Now, if you can see it and delay, that you could do, but not to see it and make it, that you can't do. Kizeh, you have to see it. If I see it, I can delay it. If I don't see it, I can't make it. Guys, you good? Guys, you good so far? Hesh, you good? Jay-Z, Ben, Huda, you all good? I'm never convinced because if I speak loudly that people understand what I'm talking about. Rabbi Rose, why you good? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Now, v'chihod Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, ma'aymin ala edim ala chodesh shenira bizmanoi, will scare edim into saying kiddush hachodesh to make it into what? To day 31. Ve'ma'aymin ala edim ala chodesh sheloi nira bizmanoi lekatshay. It's a very funny Gemara. It's mashma, but we create false edis. Like, what's going on over here? If they saw it, they didn't see it. But what do you mean? So there's a Rabbeinu Chananel over here. He says, Kloimar, even if you don't see it, we don't scare them saying, be careful and testify. When they see a star, and we say, oh, you saw a star? It was the Alvana. So chas v'shalom to say the Adam Kam, they say, I don't know what I saw. I don't know if it's Levana. I don't know if it's a star. So we don't go ahead and say, oh, because we want day 30 to be Rosh Chodesh, right? We don't say, what are you talking about? Of course it was Levana. That you don't do. But on day 30 or 31, that's not a problem. So automatically that's going to be Rosh Chodesh. I might think, let's we scare Adam, we force them. Al hachodesh shenira bisman. Oh, you saw it on the 30th. La'abroi. And in other words, if they're not sure, we'll say, okay. In other words, they come and they say, well, we saw a star, and it's for our purpose to make that star into the Levana to make Rosh Chodesh on day 30. That we don't do. Ini is really so. But Shalach Rabbi Yehuda Nesil Rav Ami have a yoidim shekol yomav shel Rabbi Yochanan hayimalameidnu ma'ayman ala edim ala chodesh shlei nira bizman lekatshai. We would scare the edim. Afal b'shlei ruim they didn't see it. Yomarinu to scare them, saying we did see it. Amar by lekasha ha b'nissen b'tishrei ha b'shar yarchei. One is speaking about Nishan v'tishrei. One is speaking about what all the other days of the year. Rashi says b'nissen b'tishrei shamoidas tuliyim behen b'katshon l'tzoyrech. That we would scare them. Of course, again, it's necessary to be exact, but the other ones we will not scare them. So again, if it suits our purposes and it's Nisan and Tishrei, I guess we would go ahead and be Machal Shabbos. So certainly we can scare them into go ahead. Oh, you know that star you saw? That's really the Levana. Now, I think underlying this whole Gemara, I really think, Bisman Azeh, we don't have Kiddush Levana, right? Bismana we don't have Kiddush Al Yedei, correct? We have an Amoira Hillel making the calendar. Don't you think the Tanoim knew the calculations before Hillel? Just because there was a mitzvah to go Al Yedei, don't you think even without that they can ascertain it? I think I'm not going out on a limb and saying, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? So Mimela to say when it suits their purposes that Rosh Chodesh should fall out wide on a 30-day, they were able astrologically to go ahead and figure it out. They didn't see the Levana yet. There could be other reasons they didn't see the Levana yet. There was a lack of clarity in the sky, whatever the reason. But they knew intrinsically that it was. If Hillel, Bisman Azeh, we know exactly what's Moleh and Chasa. Of course they knew. So to say that they're forcing them, being ma'ayim them, to lie, it's not really such a lie. I think it's a very geschmack of shot, guys, right? It really explains a difficult inyan. Of course they know. Hillel knew, the Tanoim Zicha knew. And actually, the people even before the Tanoim, of course they knew. Bezdin knew.
So
What?
they get the best of both worlds. They're Mekayim the Re'iyah, and they have the exact calculation.
Exactly. But again, to say they didn't know that, like Hillel was mechadish, that makes no sense. I think I'm not going out on a limb and saying this. I think it's posh shot in the Gemara if you give it a little thought. So of course they knew. The male, it's not such a Yankel. You hear Yankel? This is up your alley. Yankel, you hear? They were. Of course they would go ahead and do this. Again, it suits their purposes because this intrinsically we knew what it was. Okay, so now the Gemara makes a lot of sense. I think Shraita and the Swahili Gemara guys give it a chance. I think it's a game changer.
Al Shisha Chadashim should have said all 12 months.
What?
The Mishnah before.
It's a mitzvah to Kaddish al Yidei Re'iyah. That's when there's a mitzvah to Kaddish al Yidei Re'iyah.
Right, no, I'm just saying the
Mitzvah. Yes, and Bisman bias they were Mechalol. That's speaking Shlomo as bias. You have Purim in there, you have Shlomo Bisman bias, Hanukkah in there. Only part of Hanukkah was right. Okay, so guys, Kishmak, but I think it's a very nice hezbollah to the Indian. I Siyat the Shmaya in the Siyat the Shmaya is I just thought of it right now. I'll tell you, the koyach of a shir, you never know. I started this Gemara, my head was nowhere. And the koyach of the shir, Siyat the Shmaya, I think Hashem put this in my mind now, it makes a lot of sense. Hey, Kenny.
Do we have a Gemara that says what happened in Hillel's time, why he decided to do it and everyone else approved of it? Writing it down?
No. This was still, it was not Myra. It was they only went up to a certain point. It could be Bezdin wasn't available at that point.
Right.
It could be a Gemara. I'm not off the top of my head, not. But it Zicha makes a lot of sense that this is the way it has to be. Zicha makes a lot of sense. This is the way it has to be. Okay. Rabbi Amahadatani Rabbi Shmuel Acherim he. That said that Rabbi Shmuel that he said that who's right over Shmuel, but
The top of the page, Bryce says Rabbi Bar Shmuel.
Where? All the way at the top?
No. Sorry. No, it's the one in the middle.
What line?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Atanya Rabbi Bar Shmuel. The end of line 9 of the fat ones.
For Tani Rabbi Shmuel Yochel Kashem Shema Arvinas Hashana Letzoyrech. So therefore, no. So we have another teretz. What's the other teretz? So that Rabbi Bar Shmuel said is Acherim he. That's Reb Meir in the name of Acher. We had this Gemara earlier. Remember that he held that it was a perfect system of Chasamali, Chasamali, Chasamali. That each year, the next year was 4 days afterwards. Again, 50 weeks times 7 gives you 350. There are 354 days in a lunar year. So the 350 days later is going to be the same day, and the next year is going to be 4 days later. So that din that Rabbi Shmuel said that you're not scaring, that's going according to the Acherim. It's not a kashan Ula. Ula held that what you're not locked into saying sometimes yes, sometimes not. According to Acherim, you're locked in. The Tanya Acherim Moimim ain't been at Seres. There's no difference between one Shavuos to the next Shavuos. They ain't been Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah. There's no difference between one Rosh Hashanah to the other Rosh Hashanah. Eladal Yomim Bilvad, only 4 days. And if it's what it was a Ibiyod Chamisha, you're gonna have what? You're gonna have 5 days, and therefore you don't go ahead and scare Adam because it's already set, guys. You don't have to scare the Adam; it's already set. So that would be the kasha that Yeslan Ula is not a kasha because that Bryce, the Rabbi Shmuel, is according to the Acherim, and the other Tanaim disagree. Rav Dimi min Adoi Masni Ibcha, he learned the opposite. The Adam that it's not Shir Bismano on day 31, we go ahead and Lakashoy. And one, we don't scare them. My time, what's the reason? Now, if you have To come and tell that you saw the Levana on day 30, it's what? It's if no one saw it, then your sheker is known. Masha Ein Kain, if to come and say that they saw it on day 29, right, in day 30, right? They want to create Chodesh, then it's possible that what? People, the sheker is known. Because in other words, it's not known others didn't see it. They held that the person did see. Masha Ein Kain on the 31st day and the 30th day, when it should be out, it's Michse Keshikra, because other people are going to say they did see it. To say it, I saw it on 29, right? Then we would scare Adam into it. Why? Because other people aren't going to say that they're lying. They're going to say, well, they saw it and we didn't see it. Masha Ein Kain on day 30 to go ahead and lie then, that's Michse Keshikra, because anyone could see it on that day. Look at the top Rashi. Michse Keshikra, Kishaniris Bismana, when you see it on day 30, the Einu Me'idim, Harbe Acherim, Yesher Royim, there are many people who did see it. Venira shall Sheka Ebruha, and nearer that what you went from day, it's Sheka to be Ma'abarit. Avo Kishloi Ru'ua, for Amru Ra'inu, when they said they didn't see it, and right, ain't Sheka Noida, the Sheka is not known. When they didn't see it on day 29, and we forced them into saying they saw it on day 29, that Sheka is not known because they're going to say, well, maybe it's a 30 day, not a 29 day. Masha Ein Kain, to make them say it on day 30, when everyone else could have seen it, then it's Michse Keshikra. Okay, the next piece of Gemara is contingent upon the idea of the Moiled. Just to go back to our earth science days. The earth is here, the sun is here, let's say, and the moon goes around the sun, the moon goes around the earth. It takes the moon either 29 or 30 days to go around. Okay, when's the Moiled? There's a 24-hour period over here where the sun is totally blocked off. Where the moon, when it gets over here, it made its circle, it came around, it rotates, and here's the sun. The sun is shining. We know the moon does not go ahead and radiate its own light, it just reflects the light of the sun. So when it's over here, you're basically with Pink Floyd, you're living on the dark side of the moon, right? And you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to see it because again, it's totally blacked out. It's blacked out for a 24-hour period, we'll see. Okay, that's the period of time. Now, the Moiled is when it renews itself, meaning the old goes away, what we call it wanes, and then the new comes out, what we call in English waxes. It wanes and it waxes. So we're discussing that thing. There'll be two very ambiguous statements, and the Gemara will come up with a little clarity of those statements. And this is the Gemara that I think I have no shaykhs to. Okay, so says the Gemara. Amar Shmuel. Says Shmuel, I'm able to go ahead and be metaking all of the diaspora. Says Rashi, even without Edim, I'm able to make the calendar. I'm an expert in the renewal of the moon and its rotation. So says Shmuel, I think somewhere says Shmuel says he was bakant in the stars like the streets of Nardoi. So he was an expert in this. So this would substantiate the pshat I told you before, guys, right? If Shmuel was an expert in it, it's only the Tanoim were an expert in it, right? So that they scared Adam to go ahead and it's not even really a lie because they figured it out already. But it was just a mitzvah in Mekadosh Al Yidei the Re'iyah. So Shmuel says he could do that. So Amalei Abba Avua the Reb Simloi said Abba the father of Simloi Shmuel. Yodamar Hamilsa Detanya, Besoida Ibur. Do you know this thing that we spoke about in the Soida Ibur, a brisa that speaks for a Muslim about Kiddush at Levana? Noiled Koidim Chatzos, Oy Noiled Acha Chatzos. Do you know what it means whether Levana was Noiled before Chatzos or after Chatzos? Do you know what that ambiguous statement means? So Amalei Shmuel said, Lo, he said to the father of the Simloi, no. So Amalei, Midahola Yada Mar. So maybe you don't know everything. So he put Shmuel in his place. However, Kisolik Reb Zera, when Rabbi Zera came up from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he explained this ambiguous statement of Noilid Koidim Chatzos and Noilid Ach Chatzos. He explained the statement. Shalachalhu Tzarech Shehi Laila V'Yoim Min HaChadesh. It has to be that the night and the day are from the new moon. You can't split the two. In other words, if the night before can't be the old Levana, and the day afterwards is the new Levana. That period, if the night before, it has to be that if the night before was old, the day also can't be Rosh Chodesh. If the old one that you see, if you see the moon on the eve of the 30th, guys, if you see on the 29th day, on the eve of the 30th, it can't be Rosh Chodesh. Because why? Because that moon is part of the old month. That's what it means over here, that you saw before Chatzos or after Chatzos. That's what the Gemara means. Shalach le lahu, okay. It has to be both in the same. Here's the way you make you mechashiv the tolda. Noilid koydem chatzos biyedua shenira samech l'shkias achama. If you the moilid takes place before chatzos, then you know that it was seen before shkia. So before chatzos halayla, you know if you see it, then you know that samech l'shkia of the chama, it was already out the moon. Loy noilid koydem chatzos. If it wasn't noilad before chatzos, only after chatzos, b'yedua shloi nira samech l'shkias achama. So let's say the following. Let's say you would have Eidim that come. We saw the moon soymech l'shkia, right? We saw the moon soymech l'shkia. Now, if you know the moilid, they saw the moon soymech l'shkia. If you knew the moilid was after chatzos, you know they're lying. Because if the moilid was after chatzos, there's no way they could have seen the moon before shkia. In other words, they're saying they saw, the opposite way. You see the moon, you see it what koydem chatzos, koydem chatzos halayla, and they say they saw, and they say they saw. I'm mixing myself up. Now, one more time. They say we saw it samech l'shkia. So samech l'shkia sachama. That's when they saw it before the sun set. They say they saw it. Then you see the moon before chatzos halayla. Then they're lying. If you see it before chatzos, it had to be out there before shkia. So this tells us that they're lying, and that's what the Gemara says now. To go ahead and we can aid this. Okay, since we're samech on the Eidim. So if they say they saw it what samech l'shkia, and we know that it came out after chatzos, we know they're lying. Amar Rav Zera, Amar Rav Nachman, Chav Dalit Shoy Mechasei Sehira. For 24 hours, you can't see the moon. Now, depending where you're standing in Bavel and Eretz Yisrael, there's a nafkamina between the different hours. Lidi done in Bavel, Shis Me'atika, of the 24-hour period, 6 are from the old moon. The Tamna Sori Mecharata, and 18 are from the new moon. Lidi 2, those standing in Eretz Yisrael, Shish Mecharata, 6 is from the new moon. The Tamna Sori Me'atika, and 18 is from the old moon. There's a lot of Rashis over here. Fighter. Lamai nafkamina, Amravashi lachushe sade. Again, to go ahead, if they say they saw the new moon, guys, if they say within a 24-hour period, you know they're lying, because what? It's not possible. We're going back to what we said before. It has to be the same day. Minalan. Rabbi Yochanan says may erev ad erev, but it says by Yom Kippur from the morning, from evening till evening. Now, remind you that Yom Kippur begins at the beginning of the evening. Reish Lakish Shama, ad Yom Echad v'Esen l'Chodesh, regard you eat matzah from the first day of Rosh Hashanah, of Pesach, until the last day, and that's a full Chodesh, it's a full night. Bo'erev. My binayu, abayama mishmois darshnik. There's no nafkamina between them. The only way is whether you darshan it. Do you darshan it from Yom Kippur, which again is the bechila of the day, or do you darshan it from matzah, which means the whole day. So only meshmois drasha ikabinayu. Rabbi says no. Rabbi says chatzos laila ikabinayu. Chatzos laila would be the difference between them. If you go according to Yom Kippur, according to the Mandiyama says Yom Kippur, according to Rabbi Yochanan who says Yom Kippur, if they say we saw chatzos laila, then the tchilas erev, is what is considered not the same day. It's einoi. I have written down over here, Tchilas Erev, Shuv Eina Mekadesh Alvana. Since they say they saw it later, you're not going to be Mekadosh Levana that day because you're going to Pekilas Erev. Mashen Ken, according to Rav Shimon ben Lakish, who says it's the whole night, you could be the whole Chatzos, that period of time, later on in the evening, you could be Mekadosh Levana if they say this sort later. Okay, this part I basically fumfed. So if you don't understand it, don't worry. Okay, Bez Hashem, we'll pick it up here tomorrow night.
Rav Abi,